Havoc Be Thy Game is the first track on Goliath's Throne and is a continuation from Heart of an Artist to keep this story going. From Heart of an Artist, we sort of brought the idea that there's this troubled soul that had been going through many different stories in his life, and was able to finally come out of the other side, and now we're starting to see his rise. This is his Havoc. The spelling is not a mistake, it is intentional. Havoc is the word that we're using to describe the colony of his uprise. It's his colony. They are Havoc. After all those years of turmoil and pain, it's time for him to rise up again. That's Havoc Be Thy Game. Hibernation is the second track. This describes the Goliath's year of isolation away from life, and how this person who used to be dealing with all these troubles has now gone to sleep in a slumber, and now is willing to wake up again after that as a completely new beast. He's not a force to be reckoned with, he is not to be messed with, he is out there to kill any toxicity that is headed his way. This is the description of somebody stepping away for a long period of time, and coming back as a totally different person. Maybe not totally different, like not losing too much moral compass along the way, but healing, so to speak, from all the wounds that have been given over the lifetime that he's had. I Am the Animal is the third track off the album and is to describe the inner beast that isn't us. It's a trigger, it's a sign not to be messed with. It's something that we ourselves can't overcome. We end up becoming beasts of our own ferocious natures through primal instinct to lash out at others. That is our inner animal, and if we're messed with, that's what's gonna become, is the animal. This is the Goliath at the moment. This is a newborn person with a newfound strength, and that can easily be turned around in more violent ways than you could ever think of. I think this album definitely demonstrates the idea of emotional torment, as well as rising up against money. This is the idea that, like, money is essential to live, but by using it as our fuel, is a very greedy campaign, and has, at least in my experiences and probably a lot of my friends' experiences, ruined a lot of friendships and a lot of foundation in terms of chemistry. Money has been able to abuse people and put people into turmoil, and the Goliath has been put out there in the open. People know of him, people have seen his turmoil, and will now capitalize on that. That is the corporate pain. Cold Man, that is a legitimate F-bomb to the world. That's our inner thoughts whenever we hear rambling, whining, snowflaking, practically everything in this world. World doesn't always work in your favor, and if you're sat there demanding stuff and sat there making a bad name for somebody, I mean, a lot of people this day and age prefer to apologize, but also in this day and age, apologies don't work. So, fuck you is pretty much the best way to do it. So, Cold Man is a legitimate middle finger to anybody who has opposed them, even though they are of innocent doing. We're all human beings, and the Goliath has gotten to that point now where, do I need to say anymore? Surveillance is the next track after Cold Man. It's the feeling of always being watched. As an internet personality myself, I find that I'm always watched. I'm always on target, and no matter what anybody does, it will be documented, it will be used against you later down the line. And I mean, this resolved right after Cold Man to a point where it doesn't matter. They can say what they want, but they're the worse off. It doesn't stop the anxiety of feeling monitored. And, the Goliath, as much as he's given up a middle finger to the sky, it doesn't exactly change the idea of always feeling watched. You will still feel that anxiety, and that can lead to a lot of dark places, which comes to the next one. Trojan, that's a very easy song to talk about because I've spoken about this so many times. The ideal of bias, the ideal of hearing one piece of information from one person and disregarding any other piece of information that anybody has mentioned to form your final opinion. It's a virus, and it's ruined a lot of my friendships. It's a lot of people in my life who've believed in something so harshly only for it to be a different thing. Actually, cancel culture describes that completely, and drama describes that completely, and exposure on the internet describes that so discreetly. It's a virus. Trojan is the very embodiment of that, and if we don't end up, because there is a cure, we can listen to the other side, we can be a bit more open, not judged by the book of a cover, focus pure and hard on getting the truth and not just something you want to hear. That's where I feel as though that's the vaccination, that's the cure. But nobody's doing that, so forever and a day, that's what we're seeing is Trojan. It's a virus, and it's spreading. Bloody Ether touches on the subject of cyberbullying and suicide. This one had a large backstory. I've seen a lot of people fall under through cyberbullying. The blood signifies the death, the ether describes the internet. And that's what made the idea for snakes to be in the album cover. Those are his ether snakes, and we all have them. We all have been there and probably not intentionally done something crazy in the first place, but we have to normally be careful about what our words are online and who we speak to, because we could damage someone, we could kill them, and we don't want another piece of blood on our hands. We just don't want it anymore. But we also can't afford to care too much, and that's what the world is at the moment. It's also the idea that there's always a helping hand. There's always someone out there who's wanting to turn the lights on for you, because we're all in a pretty shit place. So we need to get out. And what better way to do that than by your close friends and family? There was a music video idea for this, but you know what I'm like. I'm procrastinating. This is probably the only bit of information you'll get out of that. You're Better Off is, it definitely comes from a place of my own experiences. I've always felt like I'm better off. I've always felt like people are better off without me, especially those who deal with a lot of life circumstance, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. Can ruin a lot of foundations around everybody else. It brings down the mood. It makes people worry so much. It makes them stop eating and sleeping, and it gives you that anxiety that you're always so much better with them having a peaceful life without you, and you could just, hide in the shadows and just disappear. That's an anxiety that I've always suffered with. That song was written in a place where I legitimately felt like that. The song does segue into the understanding that these are all just anxieties, because that's all anxieties are. Just anxieties. They're your worst case scenario playing in your head constantly. And if you don't fix that, it can really get you into some strange places. That's why I always recommend cognitive behavioral therapy, or any therapist for that matter, who can handle your emotions very well. And also just trust in your friends. They don't want you gone. Nobody wants you gone. Nobody's better off about anybody, except for murderers and pedophiles and terrorists. That's self-explanatory, but decent, hardworking people who are doing innocent things and stuff that isn't really too maliceful. I think everybody deserves a chance, so that song is in the aid of that. It's a representation of anxiety, but also allowing you to know that it is only that, and we all love you. Override and Conquer is the song that capitalizes on every other subject matter that's revolved around the album so far. It's all of these are a thing. Corporate greed, anxiety, mental illness, suicide, cyberbullying, all this sort of stuff. We eventually find that peace of mind once we are aware of all of this, to override and conquer. That's the idea of the song, is to have a bit more empowerment, a bit more push, because we all need it sometimes. I feel like if we don't have that power in ourselves, then we can't get anywhere. So we have to be aware of our problems first before we go out of it. And the Goliath has had to learn a lot in this whole track list so far, and will still continue to learn. He's not perfect, neither are you, neither am I. None of us are perfect, but we can still overcome it each and every day. Mark my words. Omen Child is the metaphor to describe what the world as a whole has made. This demon child that is out there to kill, is out there to breed, is out there to falsify life itself and make it some big deal. Because of protesting, because of ideal opinions that are different from each other, because of the lack of awareness of what we do as people, and because of our primal instincts, and because of our corporate greed, because of all this sort of stuff, we've created this beast that everybody has claimed is the worst thing about this life, is that life sucks. What can you do about it? I mean, I could tell you a million times a day that there is stuff you can do about it. It's whether the world will change that, and they've not. So it's where we are, that we're dealing with this disaster. And even this album I don't think is going to stress the idea that people will be aware of their actions, people will be aware of the other people's side, and people will be open. That's just a thing, and I really hope that eventually one day we get to destroy the Omen Child that we've created. Testify the Modern Eye was written with the idea in mind, whatever mistakes we go through, there's always going to be a right and wrong. And if we've gone through it to see the day, then we can testify ourselves what we see for the representation of the world. So it's not just a biased viewpoint, taking into account that you've had to live other people's lives and see other people's lives, witness it and live it yourself. Knowing that everybody has mistakes and everybody goes down the path of hell at one point, we should be allowed to change that around. We should be given more forgiveness in that hindsight, just to testify that Modern Eye. And there we go, that's the meaning of that song. I am sick of people just having zero forgiveness for some of the most menial of things. The most menial. And it needs to stop. That is the Goliath's idea of asking for that forgiveness back. It's a hard thing to do, but after all of this, I think he deserves a chance. I think he does. So what happens when the Goliath is not forgiven? These people have gone through hell, and a lot of these people have also been demonized to the point where they are no longer the face of the world in their eyes and would rather them dead. There's been a lot of death threats online, that happens a lot. Hell, I get them sometimes. But that's just it. The Goliath, if he's not forgiven, much like anybody who doesn't get forgiveness and doesn't have a chance to evolve, where else to go but down? And, you know, by expressing that idea that he is a very aggressive person now, after going through all of that and still nothing, it's no wonder that we get criminals. It's no wonder we get villains in this world. It's no wonder we start seeing terrorism and start seeing these crazy things, because not a lot of thought was put into how we mold them as people in society and how we make them and prevent them from getting that far. And it's the problem behind not the government. It's not the problem behind their personal well-being. A lot of it is down to what they see and what they've felt in life. They've been given all this, influence from people who may have not forgiven them for something small. Maybe all their friends left them. Maybe that stress caused them to fail in school. Maybe the school didn't do anything about it. Maybe the parents didn't care. Maybe they didn't do anything about it. And when you get this visceral, you don't get a lot of forgiveness and there's not a lot of kindness in the world, that can send a guy down, 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 down. And we get shootings, we get explosions, we get tsunamis of violence, not actual tsunamis, that's kind of a nature thing. But just a lot of turmoil. And that's what the Goliath has started to do right now, is after all of that, and still no recognition for it from close people, close minds, the Goliath has gone on a rampage, and this is his rampage song. But all good things must come to an end. His tirade has been stopped, he has been restrained, and he's now going away. going away is the consequence of standing up for yourself in a very visceral ordeal. There's no denying that people get violent, and we've found out where the origin lies from, because there's an origin behind absolutely everything. But the Goliath has now been punished for this, and is now getting sent away to a point where he's doing time behind bars, or maybe something crazier down the line, who knows. But this also relates to people who, you know, they've gone through hell, and, you know, they are going away, whether they're dying, whether they're going away for a long time, maybe they have to go away for something, and it's a punishment. This is their goodbye song, and for me, I always thought I was going to get that point, so I did that with the idea of saying goodbye, personally. But Goliath is obviously going away for a long time, and as far as the album, in this story, that's where we end it for now. There'll be a continuation in the future, but I'd say that's it. Bonus tracks aside, that's it. That's pretty much the story of Goliath's Throne. Hope you enjoy. Peace.